Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Welcome back for another video. What a beautiful day. Can we just acknowledge this? Can we just bask in this moment right now? We crossed the all-time high. You've held strong. I think chances are if you're watching this video right now, it's because you've held strong. We've been together through the thick and the thin, through the downs and the ups, through $29,000 Bitcoin. Thank you for suggesting Microsoft Editor. No, I'm not interested. We made it. We're here. And now is just a time, let's celebrate. Let's just celebrate this. You know, no matter what happens over the next several days and weeks, which in my opinion is going to be much higher than here, we can just celebrate that we made it to a new all-time high and that we didn't panic sell like certain people on TikTok. I'm looking at you, Virtual Bacon and Pablo, people listening to Pablo selling at 29K. We held. And oh man, what a delightful time to be alive, to be a Bitcoin holder, a crypto holder, and all that. But the job is not done. And so I want to take a look at this. But before I even get into this, smash up that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. You are going to want to, if you're in this and you haven't had much experience, if you're new to this, I think I can be a helpful guide the rest of the way. So let me just throw that out there. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok as well. I'm active there and on Twitter. But let's go ahead and dive right into this. I have a few notes that I want to share a few thoughts here as far as what to expect now that we have crossed the all-time high. Friends, we're not out of the woods. I want to just throw that out there real quick. We are not out of the woods. In fact, this is going to be just as difficult as it's ever been before. It's a new kind of difficult, and it's a fun kind of difficult, but there will be times when your willpower is tested, one, in being too greedy, and two, in being too fearful. I mean, we're talking about crypto here. So the volatility that we experience here, we've never experienced before in really anything, unless, you know, you've done some leverage trading before. So there's a few things that I want to say. What can we expect now, and what am I going to do as a result of those things? So first of all, this is a very key point. A lot of you know I am a big on-chain analyst. I wouldn't call myself an analyst, but I rely heavily on-chain analytics. And I think that has proven to be a reliable indicator of where we are in this cycle. And so I want to give you this warning. On-chain is going to start turning neutral sometime soon. I mean, it makes sense. It's just one of those things. When Bitcoin crosses its all-time high, people will start taking profits. Now, the buying pressure is going to outweigh the selling pressure for a while, but people who have been holding will just start to take profits. Some, not most, but some will start to take profits. And so this chart, you might have seen me share this chart before. This is the Bitcoin's change in illiquid supply over, set periods of time. And so when you see it being green, that means people are holding, they're taking into cold storage. And when you see red, that means they're putting it onto exchanges in order to sell. Over the last year, we see a lot of green. In May with the China FUD, with the Elon Musk FUD, we saw a lot of red. That was a negative time. That was a time when on-chain analytics turned negative, and I tried as hard as I could to find this information, but I couldn't. It was driving me crazy. It's on Glassnode.com, $800 a month, which I would love to purchase one day, but today's not that day, unfortunately. And let's talk about that another time. But anyway, we're going to see this start turning neutral. We're going to see, we see these towers of green right here. Now, this one is from about a month ago, but we see all this green. We see people making their Bitcoin illiquid. And what we're going to start seeing is the towers become smaller and smaller if you're following my mouse. We're going to see smaller levels of green here. And that's okay. That's okay. And at the very end, we're probably going to see some red. So on chain, I think the people you might follow on Twitter. If you don't follow these people, I'd recommend them. William Clemente, Willy Woo, TXMC. There's some other ones. Just look through the people I follow and look at who's posting charts like this. Here's another one. Illiquid Supply has peaked at all-time highs recently, but that's going to go down a little bit. It's going to go down a little bit. It's not going to go down a ton. Bitcoin is becoming more and more illiquid over time in general, but this is going to go down. It's going to have a blip. It's going to have a, maybe something like this. This was May, peaked out in May, went down with the Elon and China flood, all that stuff. And then now it's peaked again. It's at a new high and it'll go down a little bit. So don't be scared. Don't be entirely scared when you see on-chain turning neutral. When you see them turning negative, there's going to be a lot of other things to pay attention, but on-chain will turn negative, and there's going to be a day, probably in a couple months, when I will be a bear, and that's okay. You've got to rely on your own research, on the indicators that you're looking at, and if you're going to take my advice, then take my advice. But just be ready. Don't freak out if you see on-chain turning neutral. This is what on-chain is for. Okay. So secondly, this is something I'm going to go back to Coin360, just check on the price. Oh man, it's struggling at 66. I'm joking. This is weird for me to say, but you guys know that I am much more of a holder than I am of a trader. But I will be looking to dump dump's not a great word. I'll be looking to sell, or maybe I'll just say dump. I'll be looking to dump about 65% of my my crypto holdings over the next couple of months, which means that I am unfortunately going to be in a position that I'm not comfortable being in. I'm going to be more of a trader. And I'm going to look at trends and I'm going to see, okay, it's Ethereum season. And I know that we're going to see some major alts start pumping. And so maybe I'll start transitioning some things around, being more of a trader. And so when it comes to my trading, if you're talking about, you're taking my advice, this is not financial advice, but if you were to take my so-called advice and just hold and hold and hold, like, especially you young people, that's what I think you should do. I would not as much recommend taking my advice for trading. And I am talking about selling some of my Ethereum. I've talked about selling maybe 10% of my Ethereum, putting that into something else that I think will pump, Polkadot, Litecoin, Cardano, Solana, something like that. I am going to trade, okay? And in the bear market, I'll probably go into some kind of trading as well. Now, I just want to, if you're going to do the same thing with me, I just want to issue you a warning. I mean, that's a dangerous game to play, but there are people who I think will be much more reliable than me on that. CVO Crypto, he's the man. Crypto Weatherman, Lewis Raskin, these are people on TikTok, peers of mine on TikTok. I'd recommend checking them out and paying a lot of attention to what they're doing. The Blockchain Boy as well just seems to be able to call when he thinks a specific alt is going to break out. I just recommend listening to those people. Now, here's number 3. So here's something that's very important that we need to pay attention to. The Fear Greed Index is going to be uncomfortably on the greed side for long stretches of time. And if you know the famous Warren Buffett saying, be greedy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are greedy, I'm seeing that some of you appropriately are starting to be afraid, and that's great. That is a good mindset to have, but you've got to just consider past history. You've got to temper your emotions here, and just if you sell too soon when you see the Fear Greed Index max out, you're probably going to miss out on a lot of gains. So what am I looking at here? Oh, where is it? Here we go. Here's the Bitcoin, the Crypto Fear Greed Index over the last year. Now, here's when it peaked, started to go into the 90s. I mean, you see Bitcoin or Crypto Fear Greed Index in the 90s, you should generally be very afraid. But look at this, November 6th. What was the price of Bitcoin on November 6th of 2020? I want to say somewhere around $15,000. And we see it's consistently in the 90s for a long stretch of time until probably January 8th, I would guess. January 9th, it's at 94. January 10th, Bitcoin peaked, had a local top at $42,000 on January 10th. And so let's say that you just sold your Bitcoin on November 6th, when Bitcoin was at $15,000, you missed out on almost a 200% gain by selling it that soon. So you're going to see the fear greed index start topping out, and that may be a cause for concern for you, as it naturally should be. But I am expecting over the next 2 months for this fear greed index to be just as high as here, and it's going to remain that way for quite a while. So I hate to say it like this, don't get too scared when you see the fear greed index top out, as it seems to be doing right now. Now, this is the overall crypto fear greed index. It's at 82. I think that was yesterday. No, that's today. So it's one of those things you've got to take in a whole bunch of information and not just one thing. And so I'm going to share with you just certain kinds of information that I will be looking at. But here's my fourth thing, and I've alluded to this already. This is a different kind of difficult. Okay, this is not easy all the way up, and we're just going to be celebrating and partying. We're going to be planning our trips to Cabo and all that stuff. This is a new kind of difficult, and your strength of will is going to be tested beyond what you're capable of imagining right now. Okay, so there's two dangers. There is a danger of being too afraid, which is a good kind of danger. There should be some fear right now, and just not all out fear, because we're seeing the fear greed index top out in greed, but there should be an appropriate level of just temperance right now. You should not just be all in on the greed, thinking that this is going to go up forever, because what if I'm wrong? What if other people that you're listening to are wrong, and Bitcoin's not going to top out at 200,000 or 250 or even 100,000. I mean, by all metrics that I can look at, it's going to go well over $100,000. But what if I'm wrong, And what if there's certain signs that you're seeing that seem to be contrary to the narrative that you might be believing right now? You just don't be all in on the greed side. And then when you see things go parabolic, like I expect them to do for most cryptos, be more measured. Okay, so you're going to be tested on the greed side. You're going to be tested on the fear side. You see Bitcoin go up to $100,000, get rejected there, go down to like $75,000. You might be tempted to think it's going to be over, and you might sell too soon. There's so many things that you've got to juggle, that you've got to weigh out. And we're going to talk about sleepless nights coming up. They're going to be, at least for me, and I wouldn't be surprised if for you as well, there's going to be a lot of sleepless nights. Okay, so here's what I'm looking at. A lot of different factors that I'm looking for in determining where are we going, when are we going to peak, a lot of different things. I shared on my Twitter account yesterday. This happened sooner than I thought. I thought this was going to happen in early November, like November 2nd or something like that, that Bitcoin would cross its all-time high, that it would hit $100,000 in November. So I'm having to adjust myself a little bit in thinking one of two things: that one, we're going to peak sooner than my prediction of December 21st, or two, we're going to have a higher peak and it's going to go higher than $200,000. I think it's going to be one of those two, perhaps. We'll see. But I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to complain that Bitcoin has crossed its all-time high on October 20th instead of November 2nd. That's a difference of 13 days, something like that. But here's some things that I'm looking at. Okay, the MVRVZ score. This is a big thing. This is one of my go-to metrics for determining when I think we're about done. So this was very close. This score topped out very close. It just determines, it's a measure for how much people are in profit, essentially. Topped out on April 9th of 2013 and November 22nd of 2013. That was within a week of those double blow off tops in 2013. It topped out on December 17th. That was the day that Bitcoin peaked in 2017. We topped out in February of this year, but it didn't enter this pink zone. This is what I'm expecting, an entry into this pink zone or maybe beyond it. Topped out on February 21st. That was the first time that Bitcoin got to $58,000. And we spent about 13 weeks there. So that was the first time that Bitcoin got to that range earlier this year. Now this year, I am expecting a blow-off top, 200,000, maybe 250,000. And I expect us to enter this pink zone, maybe not exit it, but enter it. And so right now, I mean, we're at a score of 3, about 3. So we're looking just fine. But I'm expecting a rise similar to these 2013 rises here, you know. I think it's going to be just that quick. Let's see, when was that? All right, so January 18th. Let's see, score of around 3 was February 8th, and then it topped out 2 months later at 10. So I'm expecting, about 2 months later that we're going to peak in this pink zone. And that'll be the end. Another thing that I'm looking at is the crypto Google Trends, Bitcoin Google Trends. You can see the interest in 2017 was topped out. And then earlier this year, there were times that Google Trends interest had local tops, but nowhere near the 2017 peak. I am expecting a peak similar to this, maybe even beyond it, where we see people searching for Bitcoin on Google. We see people talking about on Facebook, all your friends, your Uber driver, your kid's nanny, all this stuff. They're going to be talking about what's going on with this Bitcoin. Is it too late to get in? And we're going to see lots of search interest. But look at it now. Isn't that crazy? It's so low. Where is my mouse? Okay, it's so much lower than, we just crossed an all-time high. Now, this was a week ago, and so I expected to maybe be around a score of 30. Right now, it's at a score of 20. But we just crossed an all-time high, and retail's asleep. So that's something that I addressed on Twitter here. I'm just going to go to Twitter real quick. My boy Sambo, he's been with us for quite a while, and so proud of you, man. He says something. I'm going to be honest. I'm getting a little nervous because you say this is the time to be nervous, and with your timeline move it up, it doesn't help. Yeah, my potential timeline move up. We'll see about the time as far as when Bitcoin peaks. So I said I want to address this. Now is not quite the time to be nervous. That time is coming soon, though. Retail is still asleep, and that's what I'm seeing with Google Trends. Retail is still asleep. And what's going to make this a blow off top is when retail wakes up and starts buying and thinks that this is going to go to $1 million. And then they're the ones left holding the bag. As always, I wish I could just, warn everybody right now not to do that. But at the same time, that means that we would make less money. Whatever. It's like retail's not here yet. Retail will come. And when that search interest rises, it's going to be about time to exit. Now, here's something else, the Pi cycle top. Now, this is something that I think is going to not play out. And it's really interesting because the Pi cycle top has been very accurate over time. Within a few days, 3 days, I think, of the 111-day moving average crossing over the 350-day moving average, Bitcoin peaked in 2013. Both times, Pi cycle top indicator, Bitcoin peaked. And then 2017, within 3 days of the peak, the indicator topped. Earlier this year, Pi cycle indicator broke through, and that was the top. Now, for that to happen this time around, Bitcoin would have to peak at something like $600,000. And I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I would celebrate. To be honest with you, I'd probably sell some of my Bitcoin if it peaked at $500,000. But this is off right now. It's I don't know how to explain it. This is not going to happen. So I'll pay attention to the Pi cycle, but I don't think that the 111-day moving average is going to cross over that 350-day moving average before the peak. It's too much. It is too much. I hope I'm wrong, but it's too much price action that needs to happen between now and that day. So there were some other things that I wanted to share, but I'll keep it at that. Congratulations, everybody. Let's check out that price again. So we're flirting with 67,000. There really isn't much of a sell wall left. It's one of those things where there was a major sell wall starting at $63,000. And at that all-time high, there was a sell wall, and we sliced through that like butter. I think that futures ETF, I need to do more research on this. That futures ETF, even though it's a futures ETF, they might need to actually the market makers might need to actually acquire Bitcoin, which is what's sending this price much higher. And that's a whole nother beast that I'm going to do research about it, and I'm going to cover that probably at another time. But much love to you guys. Congratulations. I hope that we're all able to time this perfectly. but I will settle for 80% perfection. And I hope that that's okay with you as well. That if it tops out at $200,000, 160,000, selling it at 160,000 on the way up or down is just fine for you, or, you know, for other cryptocurrencies, because you're not going to be perfect here. And that's not the point. The point is to win, to be more in profit, and to not be a bag holder. So, all right, have a great rest of your week. I will be live later today. I got some things to do, some auto repair stuff that I need to take care of, but I'll be back, and much love to you all. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.